My husband's family told me they were planning a surprise party. You know nothing, they said. I smiled and left, taking their money. They learned I knew everything and left them with empty hands. So picture this, I'm sitting in my mother-in-law's kitchen, sipping some lukewarm Folgers that tastes like it's been sitting there since breakfast, when suddenly the whole family starts acting weird as heck. Like weirder than usual, and trust me, that's saying something because these people are already off their rockers on a good day. My husband Jake had been married to me for 3 years, and let me tell you, his family never really warmed up to me. Not because I'm a bad person or anything. I mean, I bring homemade cookies to every family gathering, remember all their birthdays, and I even pretend to laugh at his dad's terrible dad jokes about fishing and beer. But they always treated me like I was some kind of outsider who crashed their little family party uninvited. So there I am, minding my own business, when Jake's mom Patricia starts giving me these looks. You know the kind, like she's got some big secret burning a hole in her tongue and she's just dying to spill it but can't quite bring herself to do it. His sister Monica keeps whispering to their cousin Brad, and every time I glance over, they go dead silent like they're planning some top-secret CIA operation or something. Finally, Patricia clears her throat real dramatic-like and goes, "Honey, we need to talk to you about something important." And I'm thinking, oh great, here we go. Either someone's pregnant, someone's getting divorced, or they're about to tell me my potato salad sucks and I should stop bringing it to family barbecues. But nope. Instead, she leans forward with this conspiratorial whisper and says, "We're planning a surprise party for Jake's birthday next month. A really big one. We're talking about renting out the community center, hiring a DJ, the whole 9 yards." Now, I'm sitting there thinking this is actually pretty sweet. Jake's been going through a rough patch at work, his construction company's been laying people off left and right, and he's been stressed about money. A nice surprise party might actually cheer him up for once. But then Monica jumps in with this weird tone. "The thing is, we need you to act like you don't know anything about it. Like, nothing at all. Can you handle that?" And she says it in this way that's almost like she's challenging me, like she doesn't think I'm capable of keeping a secret or something. I'm like, yeah, of course I can keep a secret. That's what surprise parties are all about, right? But then Brad chimes in, and here's where it gets really weird. He goes, "We mean it though. You literally know nothing. We're handling everything. The planning, the invitations, the food, the decorations, everything. You just need to make sure Jake shows up at the right time and place." And I'm thinking, okay, that's a little strange. Usually when you're planning a surprise party for someone's husband, you'd want the wife involved, right? Like, who knows Jake better than me? I know his favorite foods, his favorite music, which friends he'd actually want there versus the ones he just tolerates because he has to. But Patricia nods along like Brad just said something super smart, and she adds, "Exactly. We've got this all figured out. We know what Jake likes. We've been planning this for weeks already." Update. So get this. They're acting like I'm completely clueless about party planning, even though I literally organized Jake's last 2 birthday parties myself. Starting to think this isn't really about keeping secrets. Anyone else getting weird vibes from this situation? That's when the light bulb started flickering in my head, you know? Because here's the thing about Jake's family. They're not exactly the most generous people on the planet. Like, when we got married, his mom gave us a used toaster that didn't even work properly. For Christmas last year, his dad gave Jake a 6-pack of Bud Light and called it a day. These are not people who typically go all out with community centers and DJs. But I played along because, hey, maybe they were finally coming around. Maybe they wanted to do something nice for their son and include me in the process. So I smiled and nodded and said all the right things about how excited I was and how great it was that they were doing this. Then Patricia drops the real bomb. "Oh, and we're going to need some money from you for the party expenses." There it is. The catch. I should have seen it coming from a mile away. "How much are we talking about?" I asked, keeping my voice super casual even though alarm bells were going off in my head like a fire drill. Monica pulls out this crumpled piece of paper from her purse and starts reading off numbers like she's some kind of accountant. "Well, the community center rental is $400. The DJ is $300. Decorations will probably run about $150, and we figure food and drinks for 50 people will be around $600. So we're looking at about $1,500 total." "And you want me to pay for all of that?" I asked, trying not to sound as skeptical as I felt. "Well, not all of it." Brad jumps in real quick. "We're all chipping in. But since you're his wife, we figured you'd want to contribute the most. Maybe like $800? The rest of us will cover the remaining $700. I'm sitting there doing mental math, and something doesn't add up. These people have never wanted to spend more than $20 on Jake for anything, and suddenly they're planning this elaborate party and asking me to foot most of the bill? My spidey senses were tingling big time. But here's where I made a decision that probably saved my marriage and definitely taught his family a lesson they won't forget anytime soon. Instead of calling them out right then and there, I decided to play along and see exactly what they were up to. $800 sounds reasonable, I said, pulling out my checkbook. "When do you need it?" The way their eyes lit up when I said that should have been captured on video. Patricia practically started drooling, and Monica got this smug little smile like she'd just won the lottery. "Actually, if you could give it to us today, that would be perfect," Patricia said, trying to sound casual but failing miserably. "We need to put deposits down on everything to secure the dates." So I wrote them a check for $800, handed it over with a smile, and said, "I'm so excited about this party. Jake's going to be thrilled." As soon as I got home, I did what any reasonable person would do in this situation. I called the community center to ask about their rental rates and availability. Guess what? They don't even rent out their space for private parties. It's only available for community events and city functions. Next, I called around to a few local DJs to get quotes. The most expensive one I could find charged $200 for a 4-hour gig, not $300. Then I started thinking about the guest list. 50 people? Jake doesn't even like 50 people, let alone want them at his birthday party. The guy's got maybe 10 close friends, and half of those live out of state. Update. Just confirmed my suspicions about the venue and DJ pricing. These people really thought they could scam me with fake receipts and inflated costs. But here's the thing, I'm not confronting them yet. I've got a better plan brewing, and it involves letting them dig their own grave a little deeper first. What would you do in this situation? Over the next couple of weeks, I kept playing the clueless wife role perfectly. Whenever Jake's family would bring up the party in casual conversation, I'd act all excited and ask innocent questions like, "Oh, what kind of decorations are you thinking?" Or, "Have you decided on the menu yet?" The responses I got were hilarious. Patricia would get all flustered and say things like, "Oh, we're still working on those details," or, "Don't worry about it. We've got everything under control." Monica would change the subject entirely, usually to something random like her new gym membership or her coworker's drama. Meanwhile, I started doing some detective work. I casually asked Jake about his birthday plans, and he mentioned that his mom had asked him to keep his schedule clear, but hadn't given him any specifics. When I asked if he wanted a big party this year, he laughed and said, "Can you imagine my family throwing me a big party? They'd probably invite 3 people and serve gas station pizza." That's when I knew for sure what was happening. Jake had no idea about any surprise party because there wasn't going to be one. His family had essentially stolen $800 from me under false pretenses, and they probably thought they were being super clever about it. But here's the thing about me. I grew up with 4 older brothers who tried to scam me out of my allowance money on a weekly basis. I learned early on how to spot a con, and more importantly, how to turn the tables when someone tries to pull one over on me. So I waited, and I planned, and I let them think they had gotten away with it. About a week before Jake's actual birthday, Patricia called me up all fake sweet and said, "Honey, there's been a little change of plans with the party." "Oh no," I said, putting on my best concerned voice. "What happened?" "Well, it turns out the community center had a scheduling conflict and the DJ had to cancel because of a family emergency. We're going to have to postpone the party for a few weeks while we sort everything out." I almost laughed out loud. They were trying to buy themselves time to figure out how to cover their tracks or come up with excuses for why the party never happened. "That's such a shame," I said. "Jake's going to be so disappointed. Is there anything I can do to help?" No, Patricia said quickly. "We'll handle everything. Don't worry about it." "Well, what about my $800? Should I expect a refund since the party isn't happening as planned?" There was this long pause on the other end of the line, and I could practically hear the gears turning in her head as she tried to come up with a believable excuse. "Oh, well, we already put deposits down on everything, so the money's tied up right now, but as soon as we get the new date confirmed and sort out the refunds from the vendors, we'll settle up with everyone." More lies. Beautiful, obvious lies that were just digging them deeper into the hole they'd created for themselves. "Of course," I said. "I totally understand. These things happen." After I hung up, I started putting my plan into action. First, I called Jake's best friend Tommy and filled him in on the whole situation. Tommy thought it was hilarious and immediately offered to help with what I had in mind. Then I reached out to Jake's cousin Mark, who's always been the black sheep of the family and doesn't get along with Patricia and Monica anyway. Mark was more than happy to be part of my little scheme. Finally, I contacted a few of Jake's actual close friends and his coworkers who genuinely cared about him. I explained the situation and asked if they'd be interested in throwing Jake a real surprise party, one that would happen on his actual birthday, not some made-up future date. Everyone was on board immediately. Not only were they excited to celebrate Jake, but they were also pretty ticked off about his family trying to scam me. Update. The real party is planned, and Jake's actual friends are pumped to surprise him. His family has no idea what's coming, and they're still trying to string me along with their fake party story. Tomorrow is Jake's birthday, and I'm about to drop the biggest reality check of their lives. Do you think I'm being too harsh, or do they deserve what's coming? Jake's birthday arrived, and I woke up extra early to make him his favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes with real maple syrup, not that fake corn syrup stuff. He was in such a good mood, laughing and joking around while he got ready for work. "Any special plans for tonight?" he asked, giving me a kiss before grabbing his truck keys. "Nothing too crazy," I said with a smile. "Maybe we'll just have a quiet dinner at home." He seemed perfectly happy with that plan, which just confirmed what I already knew. Jake wasn't expecting any kind of big party from his family. Around lunchtime, I got a text from Patricia. "Hope Jake's having a good birthday. Can't wait for the real celebration in a couple weeks." I texted back, "He's having a great day. See you soon." What Patricia didn't know was that Tommy had already started setting up at the local VFW hall, which his uncle manages and let us use for free. Mark was picking up a sheet cake from the grocery store bakery. Nothing fancy, just chocolate with vanilla frosting and "Happy Birthday, Jake" written in blue icing. Jake's coworkers were bringing pizza from his favorite place, Tony's Pizzeria, and someone else was handling drinks. It wasn't going to be some elaborate affair with a DJ and expensive decorations. It was going to be exactly what Jake would actually want: good food, cold beer, and people who genuinely cared about him having a good time. Around 5 o'clock, I texted Jake and told him I needed him to stop by the VFW hall to help me pick up something for my friend's event next weekend. He didn't question it because I occasionally help out with church functions and community stuff. When we pulled into the parking lot, Jake noticed Tommy's Silverado and a few other familiar vehicles. Weird, he said. Looks like Tommy's here. Huh? That is weird, I said, trying to keep a straight face. We walked through the front door, and about 20 of Jake's favorite people jumped out and yelled, "Surprise!" His face lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. I'm talking pure joy, the kind of happiness that makes your heart feel warm and fuzzy. Tommy handed him a Coors Light, Mark slapped him on the back, and everyone started talking at once, sharing stories and catching up. It was perfect, absolutely perfect. Jake pulled me aside after about an hour and said, "Did you plan all this?" "I had some help," I said, nodding toward his friends. "But yeah, I wanted to make sure you had a real birthday celebration." "What about my family's party?" he asked. That's when I decided it was time to tell him the whole story. We found a quiet corner, and I explained everything. The fake party, the $800, the lies about the community center, and the DJ, all of it. Jake's expression went from confused to angry to disappointed, and then back to angry again. "They asked you for $800? "Yep, and I gave it to them. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted to see how far they'd take it, and I wanted to make sure you had a real party with people who actually care about you." Jake looked around the room at his friends and coworkers, everyone laughing and having a genuinely good time, and then he looked back at me. "I can't believe they did that to you, to us." "Well, they're about to find out that I'm not as clueless as they think I am." The next morning, I called Patricia bright and early. "Hi, how's the party planning coming along?" "Oh, it's going well," she said, sounding a little nervous. "We're still working out some of the details for the new date." "That's great. Actually, I was wondering if you could swing by today. I have something I want to discuss about the party." "Budget." "The budget?" "Yeah, I was thinking maybe we should add a few more things to make it extra special for Jake. I'm willing to contribute more money if needed." I could practically hear her salivating through the phone. "Oh, that's so thoughtful. I'll be right over." She showed up an hour later with Monica in tow, both of them looking like they were about to hit the jackpot again. "So, what did you have in mind?" Patricia asked, settling into my kitchen chair with her usual fake smile. "Well, first, I wanted to thank you for including me in the party planning. It means so much that you trust me to help make Jake's birthday special." They both nodded and made appropriate cooing sounds about family and togetherness and all that fake nonsense. "The thing is," I continued, "I've been thinking about the party a lot, and I realized something." "What's that?" Monica asked. "I realized that you're all a bunch of lying, scheming thieves who tried to steal $800 from me." The silence in that kitchen was so thick you could have cut it with a butter knife. Patricia's mouth dropped open like a fish gasping for air, and Monica turned about 3 different shades of red. "I know there's no party," I continued calmly. "I know the community center doesn't rent space for private events. I know you inflated all the prices, and I know you thought I was stupid enough to fall for your little scam." "Now wait just a minute." Patricia started, but I held up my hand. "No, you wait. I have something for you." I walked over to my purse and pulled out a folder I'd prepared the night before. Inside were printouts of my calls to the community center, quotes from actual DJs, and photos from Jake's real surprise party. "These are the real prices for everything you claim to be buying," I said, spreading the papers on the table. "And these are pictures from the party I actually threw for your son last night. You know, the one where he was surrounded by people who genuinely care about him." Patricia picked up one of the photos, and I could see her hands shaking slightly. "Jake knows everything," I said. "He knows about your fake party, he knows about the money, and he knows that his own family tried to scam his wife." "We weren't trying to scam anyone," Monica said weakly. "We were really planning a party." "Really? Then why haven't you returned my calls about getting estimates from other vendors? Why couldn't you give me any concrete details about the food or decorations? Why did the party mysteriously get postponed right before it was supposed to happen?" Neither of them had an answer for that. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, sitting back down across from them. "You're going to pay me back every penny of that $800 today, and you're going to apologize to Jake for lying to him and trying to steal from his wife." "We don't have that kind of money just lying around," Patricia said. "That's not my problem. You should have thought about that before you decided to run your little con game." "And if we don't?" Monica asked, trying to sound defiant but mostly just sounding scared. "Then Jake and I will make sure everyone in this family knows exactly what kind of people you really are. We'll tell them at the next family reunion. We'll post about it on Facebook. We'll make sure Uncle Robert and Aunt Linda and all your church friends know that you're thieves who steal from family members." The threat of public humiliation did what logic and decency couldn't. Within 2 hours, I had my $800 back. Patricia had to borrow $300 from her sister, and Monica cleaned out her savings account to cover the rest. They also called Jake and gave him the most pathetic, half-hearted apology I've ever heard. Something about misunderstanding and poor communication, and never meaning to cause any problems. Jake, being a better person than either of them deserved, accepted their apology but made it clear that trust would have to be rebuilt over time. As for me, I felt fantastic. Not just because I got my money back, but because I'd stood up for myself and my husband in a way that sent a clear message: don't mess with me or my family. The best part is that Jake's real friends are still talking about how much fun they had at his surprise party. Tommy's already planning to make it an annual tradition, and Mark suggested we should do something similar for everyone's birthdays. Jake's family, on the other hand, has been suspiciously quiet lately. No more family dinner invitations, no more requests for favors, no more condescending comments about my cooking or my job or anything else, and honestly, that's perfectly fine with me. Sometimes the trash takes itself out, you know? The whole experience taught me something important about setting boundaries and standing up for yourself. For too long, I'd been trying to win over people who were never going to respect me anyway. I'd been playing nice with people who saw kindness as weakness and generosity as an opportunity to take advantage. But now they know better. They know that I'm not someone who can be easily fooled or pushed around. They know that actions have consequences, and that treating family members poorly isn't something I'll just quietly tolerate. Jake's been different since all this happened too. He's more protective of our little family unit, more willing to call out his relatives when they're being unreasonable, and more appreciative of the people who genuinely care about us. Last weekend, we had Tommy and a few other friends over for burgers and beers in our backyard. It was simple, relaxed, and filled with real laughter and good conversation. No drama, no hidden agendas, no one trying to scam anyone out of money. That's what family should feel like. Not the people you're related to by blood, but the people who choose to be there for you when it matters. And as for Patricia and Monica, well, let's just say they learned that sometimes the quiet daughter-in-law who brings cookies to every gathering and smiles politely at bad jokes might be a lot smarter and tougher than they bargained for. The money's back in my account where it belongs. Jake had the birthday celebration he deserved, and his family got a reality check they desperately needed. In my book, that's what you call a win-win-win situation. Now, every time we see them at family gatherings, they're polite but keep their distance. No more schemes, no more requests for money, no more treating me like I'm some kind of pushover they can manipulate. And that, my friends, is exactly how it should be.